a good day? So, for today's video, we're gonna talk about the first cartoon appearance of that man-made Man of Steel. Steel! So, alright, let's go!
Yeah! So, we start off on fire! Oh my god! Oh no, wait a second! It's just a forge in a metal shop. Whew! Our good buddy, Dr. John Henry Irons, is building a mask for his rebuilt prototype suit with the help of his niece, Natasha. You see, after John left LexCorp, he feels the need to help people, just like Superman encouraged him to do. Suddenly, breaking news, Bibbo Bibowski is telling his eyewitness account of a bank robbery about some really strong thief who just punched his way through the bank to get the money. This definitely gets John's attention, and it gets the attention of Clark Kent, Daily Planet. Meanwhile, at the next bank robbery, this time the thieves just decide to use the front door to enter the bank. So that's pretty nice, you know, like they're learning to get along, right? One very small step at a time. But the bank alarm is triggered, and the cops are on the way. Unfortunately, that strong thief guy makes easy scrap metal out of the police cruisers. Well, most of them. So the ensuing car chase gets John's attention, so he figures this is the best time to test out some of his weaponry on his prototype suit. But kind of goes well, also kind of goes horribly, as he is now trapped with nowhere to go. Luckily, Superman was around to save him. And, well, you know, to catch the crooks. Well, 2 out of 3 anyway. The third guy, the strong guy, is none other than Metallo! That's right, he's back! And better than ever, I guess. Turns out he met up with Intergang, and they completely rebuilt him. Cripes, man! That reasonable facsimile of a heart made out of kryptonite that he has? He can shoot kryptonite beams out of it! Hey, Superman is kinda screwed now. But, you know, he still puts up a pretty good fight. Being the smart fighter that he is, he kinda keeps his distance, throwing projectiles and stuff, until he gets caught in Metallo's kryptonite beam. So it's up to John Henry Irons to give Superman a hand. To which he does! Kind of? So his niece, Natasha, runs Metallo over with the van, so the 3 of them get away. Which can only mean one thing: car chase through downtown Metropolis! Yay! And with some fancy driving from Natasha, they get away from Metallo! John helps Superman recover from the kryptonite poisoning with some UV ray contraption in his shop, but Sup is still kind of down and out. Unfortunately, Metallo and his 2 buddies start terrorizing the neighborhood after tracking John's van there. So the neighborhood is blowing up, the neighbors are being harassed by this super villain, so John has no choice but to give his prototype suit a complete test run, as he becomes a brand new hero of Metropolis known as Steel. And I do gotta say, man, Steel is actually doing a pretty awesome job beating up these crooks. Also, considering that he's a rookie, and this is his first superhero fight, you know, props to him. He even dumps and traps 2 of the crooks in a garbage bin. But his beginner's luck is running out, as Metallo is absolutely no slouch. Even still, there's a pretty good tussle between these 2 metalheads, but Metallo, with his experience, gets the upper hand. Steel is screwed. Thankfully, Superman recovers enough to join the fight and, you know, starts biff, bam, boom, right? Beating up Metallo's face, and he, oh crap, right, yeah, the kryptonite. Ugh, I forgot. Always with the kryptonite. Ugh. So now it's Steel's turn to save Superman again. He uses the old flying steel hammer trick to smash Metallo's kryptonite heart and sends him down to the streets below. Game over, Metallo. So the neighborhood is saved. Hooray! Metallo's down and out, his buddies are still in the garbage bin, they'll all get arrested right away, Superman is recovered, and Steel has proved his worthiness to help protect this city. To which Superman is glad to have such an ally on his side. And with that, that is the end of this Super Tale.
Oh man, that was such an awesome episode! Always great to see a new character debut! And the Star Trek fan in me thinks that it's great that they casted Michael Dorn as the voice of Steel. You know, Lieutenant Worf. Hoopla! But even with this debut of the character, it's actually, a little odd. They spent 2 episodes introducing this guy. They showed off all of his capabilities and whatnot, and it's all pretty awesome. And then they never show him again in this Superman series? What? Luckily, he does show up later in Justice League Unlimited, but if you spend all this time creating this character, wouldn't you want to kind of see him a bit more? I would, So for sure, man, a Steel TV series would have been pretty cool. Especially considering this DC animated universe actually got pretty big with a lot of shows. But still, pretty good episode, right? One thing I like about it is that it's pretty simple and just to the point. Not much to it, a bank robbery and then fisticuffs all the way through. Until John Henry Irons puts on that suit and biff bam boom! And quite the biff bam boom indeed, right? Like going up against Metallo? Huh? But with that, another thing that I do like about this episode is how Superman and Steel kind of trade off saving each other. They both have a particular set of skills that work in certain situations, and they both have a particular set of weaknesses that is actually quite the deterrent, so the other guy's gotta step in. That's what super friendship is all about. So if you haven't checked out this episode before, I suggest you do so. Steel is a pretty cool character, and anytime you see this version of Metallo wreaking havoc, it's always good to see him get beaten up and lose. But other than that, we do have some more behind-the-scenes kind of things with, Steel and this and that and whatnot, so let's check that out over here.
So yes indeed, hey? Steel! So how did this new Man of Steel come to be? Well, let's take a tiptoe through the time tulips and take a looky-loo. And we start off in the 1990s with a trilogy of Superman stories, starting with The Death of Superman, where Superman fought Doomsday to the mutual death. That was followed up by the Funeral for a Friend storyline, which was about the world dealing with the death of Superman and the power vacuum his absence has created, which eventually brought us to the Reign of the Supermen storyline, where you had 4 different Supermen claiming the title of Superman. 4 new Supermen? It was actually this storyline that got me reading Superman comic books, so I gotta say, good on you, DC Comics marketing and writing. Very well done! So at this point, Superman had 4 different Superman titles at DC Comics, so each one of these new Supermen were taking over one of those titles each. So for the title, Superman, the Man of Steel, the new character would obviously be a Man of Steel, and that's exactly what we got with our new superhero, Steel. So let's take a quicker look at him. This new Man of Steel was based on 3 different identities. Number 1 being American folk hero John Henry. Number 2 would be Marvel Comics weapons expert and genius Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. And for 3, well, Superman, obviously, the whole point of him being created. So if we take a look at John Henry, he was an African-American freedman who was a worker on the railroads. His position there was that of a steel driving man. He used a giant sledgehammer to hammer in a steel drill into a rock so an explosive can be placed in it to make different tunnels for railroads in the mountains and whatnot. And he was so fantastically amazing at his job that he even had a contest against a steam-powered rock drill to test who was better in speed, efficiency, and strength. And of course, John Henry won that contest. Take that, machines! Ah! Legend! So, seeing as his title was a steel-driving man, that kind of works with the title of Man of Steel. For his job, he used a large steel sledgehammer, which is also being used by Steel. And of course, his name, the legend of John Henry, is a pretty good name, so if you just add an extra surname to that, you get John Henry Irons for our new Man of Steel. But Irons, hey? That kind of leads into Iron Man, with quite a bit of similarities. So both Tony Stark and John Henry Irons are geniuses, are weapons experts, and are quite innovative. So Tony Stark, Iron Man, he built a super-powered suit giving him all sorts of abilities, such as flight, strength, speed, he can shoot energy beams and whatnot. So Steel is pretty much the same thing in that, with building his suit. Also, both Iron Man and Steel's suits were gray, at least Iron Man's original suit. And also with the surname Irons being added to John Henry, Irons would be a homage to Iron Man. And of course, Superman, which is kind of obvious. But John Henry Irons, was inspired by Superman to create the suit, mimicking his powers and Superman's look. So John Henry Irons first appeared in Adventures of Superman number 500 in 1993. Just a quick little blurb at the end, setting up the Reign of Superman storyline. And with that, the new Man of Steel would get his first full appearance in Superman, the Man of Steel number 22 in 1993. We learned that John Henry Irons was a weapons engineer and he worked for Amertech Industries until he found out that his weapon, the BG-60, a portable energy cannon, was being used by a bunch of criminals and a whole lot of innocent people died. This left John faking his death as he left Amertech to live as a construction worker in Metropolis, where there was an accident and Superman saved him from falling off of a building. John Henry Irons even tried to help Superman against Doomsday, but to no avail. Once John found out that his BG-60 was upgraded and was being used in Metropolis for crime, and with Superman being dead, and not around to protect the people, he used his genius engineering to build the steel suit and become the Man of Steel. So after the Reign of Superman story concluded and Superman was brought back from the dead, this Man of Steel just simply changed his name to Steel and eventually got his own comic book where he temporarily got rid of the Superman logo but eventually got his own S crest. So that's how he came to be in the comics, which is quite a bit of a different origin story, than this featured episode. Although there are some similarities, just kind of in a roundabout way. So, in this DC animated universe, Steel's origin happened in a previous Superman episode called Prototype, where John Henry Irons was working for LexCorp and he was building battle suits for the police department, which is, basically the Steel suit, but, kind of an early design of it. This prototype suit was being used by Police Sergeant Corey Mills, and the suit would interface with the nervous system of the user. At this point, John Henry Irons was basically telling Lex Luthor that, it's still a prototype, it should not be tested by humans yet, we're bringing it out too early. But Lex didn't listen to him, and the interface with the suit made Sergeant Mills go a little crazy, unfortunately, damaging his nervous system and his brain. So after Superman defeated Mills, the suit was scrapped. But John Henry Irons' dream continued. In this featured episode, we learned that he left LexCorp and he tried to rebuild the suit, which he did. Completely successfully this time. He even tried to help Superman fight against Metallo originally without the suit, kinda like the way he did with Doomsday in the comics, but later became a temporary replacement for Superman, whereas in the featured episode, Superman never died or anything, right? So he still just wanted to help with crime. This cartoon also references the previous time we've seen Metallo in this series, when Superman defeated him in the episode called Action Figures, before he was found by Intergang and rebuilt. And also, this cartoon is the first cartoon appearance of John's niece, Natasha Irons. So she isn't shown in this series a whole lot. Actually, I think this is her only appearance. But in the comics, she was a bit more of a fleshed out character. She first appeared in Steel, Volume 2, Number 1 in 1994. So in the comics, she would eventually get her own steel suit and become a superhero in her own right, under a variety of different names, including, originally, Steel. But for this animated series, we didn't get to see any of that, unfortunately. I guess if they weren't gonna focus on Steel, they probably wouldn't focus on his niece either. Nonetheless, it's still pretty cool to see her. So this was the start for Steel outside of the comic books. You would see him in other things like video games, a somewhat legendary movie with Shaquille O'Neal, and other movies and TV shows and whatnot. But indeed, with all other stories about Steel, we'll get to those in other videos. So with this, that, those, and the other things, I guess, that's that. Also, if you're interested, I created my own comic book channel, 215 Comics. And currently, I have created my own cartoon series, The Adventures of the Density. And recently started a radio series featuring my newest character, Elastomorph, with more titles to come. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link up top here to that channel, and some links at the end of the video. Yeah! Right on, and there you go. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it as much as I did making it. Also, feel free to check out the source material that I featured in this video. And if you want to leave a comment on anything you may have liked or things I might have missed in this, feel free to do so. Or anything else, just to say hi. That's cool too. And other than that, have a great day. Thanks.